So the whole time she's speaking telepathically with her horses, which yeah, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Like, it was incredible, like out of this world.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Orphic. I'm Alyssa with Interdimensional Astrophysics, and here's Mikayla with Mariposa Moonchild.
Hello. Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone.
Hi. What's up?
Hi. Just recording a podcast. What's up with you?
Just that.
Nothing much. Yeah. You?
Not much.
NMU? Was that a thing when you were like in high school or when you were young?
Of
like
course.
I didn't know. I didn't think that was just NMU. You're like, oh wow, he likes me.
Oh yeah, that reminds me we got to tune in this time, or let's tune in.
Oh yeah,
because we forgot to do it for our Ascension episodes, but let's get grounded a bit before we
forgot to do it for both of them.
I think just for both of the Ascension episodes, but it's all right. We were just too excited to talk about the Ascension.
Oh.
But we're going to talk about some cool stuff on this episode, so you definitely want to be grounded in and really tuned in to hear it. So let's go.
Yep. Okay. I got my Palo and my Santo. I'm going to light it up. So close your eyes.
Light it up.
Or don't. Whatever.
It's a free country.
Yeah.
For now.
Okay, everyone. Let's take a couple deep cleansing breaths. Fill your lungs all the way to the top. Pause. Open your mouth and release. Another one just like that. Fill your lungs all the way to the top. Pause. Open your mouth and release. Letting go of anything heavy, anything negative, anything that's weighing you down at this time. Releasing it with the breath and letting it go. Let's do one more big breath together. And when you're ready, come back to this space.
I'm back.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Welcome back, Starshine.
Starshine.
Sorry, I'm in a kind of weird mood today. So
no, that's all right. If that's what the mood is and that's what the vibe is, then that's what it shall be.
Yeah. It's a little bit like low energy.
Yeah. I feel that.
My ears just started intensely ringing when I said that. Interesting.
The spirits are like, no, you're not low energy anymore.
No, well, I think they were more just like, yes, so rest.
Yeah. Yeah, you really gotta listen. And I think, whatever kind of you're feeling right now feels like kind of, we talked about this a few episodes ago about how sometimes you're just feeling really blah or whatever, and you do all the things and it still doesn't necessarily change anything for you, because something doesn't always need to be changed.
Yeah. And even I had a call earlier today with my mentor too, and he was kind of talking about human design and gene keys, which I really want to study a bit more. But he's like, you are a 6-2 line, and part of being a 6 is like experiencing. So a lot of like my work, like being a human on the earth, is like through experience, and that's part of my medicine too. So it's like
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder what are your lines? Do you know?
I only know that my human design, or wait, is that what we're talking about? Human design?
I think it's, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a 1-3, the investigative martyr.
Oh.
So my purpose is seeking, investigating.
Right. I forget what mine is. But anyways, I guess part of like, yeah, the 6 line is just like like learning through experiences, or like turning your experiences into your medicine, which does make me feel a little bit better, because it's like a lot of this is like collective energy too. And then like if I'm able to understand like somebody else and what they're going through and how they're feeling and being able to support them, there's like a lot of like going through those types of experiences myself first.
Right.
So I try to remember that when different experiences present themselves to me. Not always easy. Right now I'm just tired, really tired. I could probably have a nap right now.
First ever on the podcast, Mikayla naps. Well, we'll flow in this energy. And I think it'll be good. It'll serve us. And I want us to, well, what we're going to be talking about in this episode kind of has to do with energy healing, and just healing around energy, and how we use like other beings as this vessel for healing. And this was, so the catalyst for this was that Mikayla went to go observe this energy healing session that you'll talk about more, but I guess I'll just introduce the way that it came about. Was that so my sister does has an energy healing practice of her own, where she sees her own clients and everything. And at some point in December, I believe, I was staying with my sister in Florida, and she was like, wait a minute, where does Mikayla live in Canada? Because she said that she has this mentor, this spiritual teacher that she's taken courses from and met many times over the years, and went to visit her ranch in Canada. And my sister spoke so highly of this person. Her name is Loesje, and she has this ranch in Canada. And she told me, so this is actually, I believe, right after you got engaged. And so this was why, this was when you were on the brain. While you were on the brain, I was staying with Jackie, and so then she was like, she asked where you were in Canada, and she told me where this lady's horse ranch is and everything. And then I looked it up on the map, or I asked you about it, and you said it was like 30 minutes away from you, really close, considering you live in kind of the middle of nowhere, or just that part of Canada that you're in, right, is extremely vast and remote.
Yeah, well, that's most of Canada, but yeah. So, like, how many people are in the States?
Oh my God, I don't know. I'm really bad with number guesstimations like that.
Oh, well, I don't know if it'll mean anything to you, but put it this way: there's only 30 million people in Canada.
I think there's probably a lot more in the US.
Oh, no, there's way more in the US. I don't know what the actual number is, but like there's way more, because there's like over 10 million alone in like New York.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we're very like
ridiculously populated.
We're very like spread out compared to the States.
Yeah. So we once we realized that you lived so close to this lady and where her whole healing center is, Jackie was relentless and making sure, she was like, Mikayla needs to meet Loesje. This woman is one of the best teachers I've ever had. She wanted you to have this profound experience that she's had with this woman as a teacher and a mentor. And she wanted you to have access to her potentially. Yeah. Cause I think that once she kind of became a part of her life, she really served as this really inspiring mentor that was able to talk about the universe in such a unique way that really made Jackie see things like so in such a magical way. So she wanted she wanted you to experience what was there, and two, she wanted you to potentially have that mentorship, like to potentially have a continuing relationship with her because she impacted her life so much. And so then after that point, I mentioned it to Mikayla, but then obviously it wasn't in the forefront of your mind because you had just gotten engaged. So it was like, yeah, okay, that's an important thing. But then my sister became relentless in
she really
sure.
did. Yeah. I feel like, and I didn't really like when she first told me, I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. But I didn't really know like what it was about or like, and I was also just like busy, like going back to Alberta, and I didn't, I don't know. I just kind of like it was a thought that came in and it kind of like left again. Also, really quick sidebar. The States has 330 million people.
And you said Canada has how many?
30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, big difference. Anyways, that's a irrelevant sidebar.
No, that's okay. I was going to say I could probably Google it too. I
had to after that. I was just really curious.
Yeah. No, totally. Wow, that's like a big difference. Okay, yeah. Damn.
Anywho.
Yeah, so it wasn't it didn't start out as me neither. I was kind of put it in the back burner of my mind. I was like, yeah, Mikayla will maybe connect with her eventually. But then Jackie kind of was really persistent and had texted me out of the blue one day that was like, Mikayla, she was like, I was thinking about this so much. Mikayla has to meet Loesje. What's her block? Like, what's her this? Then she started,
what's her
she
resistance?
was like, she's like, what's the hold up? And I was like, there's not like really a hold up. I just
we didn't understand it was so urgent.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so important. And also, you're planning a wedding now. So that's been more on your mind.
Yeah.
And, so that combined with, so then I relayed the message. I was like, I will relay this message of importance to this. And then again, a few weeks later, I was again seeing my sister and my brother-in-law, and they had said that they just had a session with her. And they kind of just told me a little bit more about it. For the first time, I got to hear a little bit more about the details of what she does. And she works with horses and these amazing healing sessions. And I also just in that, I wanted to mention I had an interesting conversation with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, we're going to get him on the podcast at some point because he's a wealth of knowledge. He's very much on the spiritual path, but he also, he loves learning about he ingests so much. He reads a lot of books. He ingests a lot of this information. He knows a lot about the Mayan calendar and stuff like that. And so he's just ingested so many of these stories and cool things over the years. So he just has a lot of wisdom. So I really we're going to pick his brain at some point. But he was telling me too how just something about her, this lady, Loesje, and that it's like with her energy, just like synchronicities just crystallize around her. Just kind of one of those people where her entire field is just like magic moves around her. And this is just how she operates. And they told me a little bit more about what goes on the horse farm and ranch. Like, I don't know what to call it, at the ranch, and how the horses like help heal your body and all these, and they do these crazy things, and it's just so wild to witness. And then after that conversation, I was like, screw Mikayla going to the ranch. I was like, I'm going to the ranch. I was like, I don't care if you get there. I was like, I gotta get there. I gotta witness this. I gotta experience this. But yeah, so then that was kind of an extra catalyst, and she had an event coming up soon, right? So I hit you up again about it, and I was like, yo, you gotta get your ass to this place and take it from here. Tell me about it. So we haven't discussed your experience yet. We wanted to unpack it here on the podcast because I have a lot of questions, or I just think it's so interesting. So
so
I haven't heard much about it yet.
After that point, I wasn't really sure. Like, even when you're just like, oh, like she's a thing this weekend, or Jackie said that, and I was like, oh, like that's coming up really quick. Like, I don't know about
It was
that.
I'm pretty sure I said that when it was like 2 days away or something.
Yeah, it literally was. And I was like, I don't know. Like I was definitely more than interested in meeting her and wanted to, but I was just like, I don't know if this weekend's like gonna work out. And then you're like, well, why don't you just like email her, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I went onto her site. I'm like, I don't see an email anywhere. Like I could message her on Instagram, but I'd rather email her. And then you're like, well, here's her email from Jackie. And I was like, okay. Even that, I was like asking you, I'm like, I don't know what to say. You're like, just say hi.
Yeah.
I'm like, on email, I'm like, hi. My name is Mikayla.
You're like, I just need some words.
Yeah. So I did end up emailing her. I don't really even remember what I said, but just kind of like, hi, I look forward to meeting you at some point. I'm like Jackie and Brandon's friend from Florida. And then she sent me back this message that made no sense at all. And I was kind of like just going to leave it at that. I was kind of just like, okay. I was like, it was just like absolute gibberish. I was like, I was just going to leave it at that. But then I messaged her, and this was the Saturday before her workshop, evening.
One day.
So I messaged her again, and I was like, I don't quite understand. And she got back to me right away and was just like, oh yeah, just call me. So I was like, oh, and she was literally like, you have a 5-minute window to call me, and I'm hopping on a international call with Indonesia. I was like, so she's like, call me in the next 5 minutes.
Indonesia's on the line.
I just happened to like look at my phone at the exact time, because I'm not always good at like having my phone like looking at it right then. And I was like, okay, so I just like called her. And we chatted quick, and she was like, well, like all of my sessions are full tomorrow, but like, why don't you just come out to the ranch and be like an observer and do an observer session? So I wasn't involved, but she still got to sit and watch. And then she's like, then you can get an idea of like the ranch and just like what I do and everything. And like, why don't you just come out? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I guess so. Well, actually I didn't say that at first. I was just like, well, I'll see, but like, I'll text you back and I'll let you know. And then like, I kind of sat with it for a second. I was like, I really think I should do this. Like this kind of like the way like Jackie presented it to me. And it's just like so crazy too, that she lives so close to me and in her ranch. And like, it's from you and Jackie who live in the States that I have this connection. So the way it all just like kind of came through seamlessly, I was like, I think I probably should go tomorrow. So yeah, I made that happen. It was like a full day. Start from 9 to 5, be there like it said half an hour to 15 minutes early. It was really funny because even on my drive, and then I had to get myself up pretty early. I'm not usually up that early. I'm working on it.
Early for
yeah,
you.
and it was a Sunday too, so it was a bit of a change. I had to give Bryce a kiss goodbye in bed instead of the opposite way around.
That's funny.
And then I left the house a little bit late too, because I was like, I really want to get there like early and on time. As we know, I do have issues with that, but we're working on it. And then while I was driving there, I asked my guides, I was like, can you guys please help me be there on time? Can you help me? I want to be there at 8:30 ideally. And I was worried that I was going to get there closer to 9. And I also had to get something for lunch because we didn't have a ton of groceries at the time. I packed myself up a lunch, but then I was like, I'll stop at Subway on the way and grab a rice bowl to have for lunch because I feel like I'm going to need a lot of food. So I also had to stop at Subway and make it there. And I think I rolled into the ranch at 8:31.
Wow. Nice.
And I had to still,
how long was the drive?
It ended up being about 50 minutes. Okay. So Armstrong, where she lives outside of Armstrong, isn't that far away from me, but then she like lives like up the mountain from it. So I went like through Armstrong first and then like up the mountain, but like
right. So it's like it's that town, but it's like deep in it.
Yeah. Like up the mountain. It was really pretty up there though. And then I also almost went down the wrong driveway, but
nice.
Yeah, really pretty, like just like in the forest, these big like cedar trees. And I guess that her property had a fire on it 4 years ago too and burnt down like most of the buildings.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is interesting. I don't know if people on here know, but we went through a fire summer of 2021, and Bryce and I were evacuated for like 2 months, and
that was crazy.
Yeah. So that was a little synchronicity too. Yeah. So then I get there. I was definitely like a little nervous because I honestly didn't really know what to expect. Like I didn't really get an explanation, not like from you or Jackie, of like what it is, because you can't really explain it. So I feel like I might even have like bear with me because it's going to be like kind of like hard to explain. But anyways, I got there, got my stuff packed up. I started talking to another girl that was there early, which was really nice, and we connected a little bit. And then we went down to like the corrals, and we sat around a fire. And so then she had like a bed set up on the other side of like part of the corrals, so we all sat in like a moon kind of shape, and then there was a fire, and then there was the bed set up where she was like doing the sessions. And then she came.
How many people were there as observers?
I don't know, actually. Not that many. There was definitely like a couple. Like I think there was one guy who I'm gonna say came with like his wife or something, I think, to like support her, but he was just like sitting there, so I don't know if he paid for an observer spot. I'm assuming so. And then another girl, she was like on the wait list, I guess, because I guess she kind of said like, this is how many sessions we're gonna do today, I'll maybe do an extra one if we have time. So she was like on a wait list to have that session, even though it didn't work out. And she comes out and she's talking. You can definitely tell she has like a very like powerful energy, and her horses are like hanging around. The one horse's name is Nova, and she was like this very white, like very light colored pale horse with these like bright blue eyes. Her eyes looked a little crazy, to be honest, like a little creepy. And it was interesting because like I've grown up around horses when I was younger. I had like a pony and like lived on a farm, and then like a lot of my families, like aunts and uncles and my grandma and grandpa, like raced horses, like did chuck wagons and chariots. And I feel like you have no idea what that is, but other people from around here might. And like rodeo and stuff growing up. So I've always like was around horses when I was younger, and I've always felt like pretty connected with them, although I don't like see them often now. So it was really cool to see the horses come in, and I was really excited to see them.
They're so majestic. Like I did a horseback riding thing at my friend's bachelorette party in like 2021, and it was just they're amazing. I mean, they have huge hearts, so they have huge electromagnetic fields, and you can really feel it around them.
Yeah. And her horses were like so specifically majestic. Like you could just like tell when they like walked in. So so the Nova, she was really powerful. Like you could just feel it from her. As well as Loesje like kept saying how powerful she was, because I don't think these horses are broke. So she's worked her way up to, I don't know this for sure, but this is kind of what I got. Worked her way up to like slowly riding some of them, but like just completely based off of their like connection. Because like usually.
Oh, so she doesn't really, so no one really rides the horses?
No, they've started to like a little bit, but like nothing crazy. Like I don't even think with like a saddle or a bridle, like very like bareback. Bridle is like the thing that goes like in their mouth. Yeah. And that you can like control them with.
So they're free flowing.
Yeah, for the most part. And I think they've kind of like worked up their connection to being able to do that. But even Lucia's like, I'm scared to ride Nova. Like she's so powerful. I'm like scared to like ride her and like get on her. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And then there was another one, Lyra, that was black and white, like a pinto or a paint, which was one of my favorites. So pretty. And then a Cash, and he was brown. Ooh. Yeah, with a white stripe on his face, some white socks, and he had one eye that was like bright blue. So they were like this really like cool herd. And then so anyways, when we first sat down and they brought in Nova, and she was kind of standing around the table, and I think maybe her son it was like brought in Nova and had her like in a halter and stuff, and her one eye was like looking like right at me, and I looked like right at her, and as soon as I looked at her, she like stomped her foot. Whoa. And I was like, whoa. And then that was really interesting for me, because this foot stomp thing was a thing that she was doing all day. And I guess
Like when people looked at her or when you looked at her?
just in general, it was like a way she was like moving energy like for the person.
Yes.
But I guess it was kind of like abnormal. Like she doesn't usually do that. Like even
Right. It's a part of her interaction with the people.
And even Loesje was kind of like commenting on like, oh, like what's going on with like the foot stomp, like talking to her. But it was just weird because like it didn't start until like when we locked eyes, and that was the first time she did it, and I was like, oh wow. And it was just like interesting. So anyways, that's the introduction to some of the horses, but I don't really know what the fuck this is. I don't really know what to call it. So Loesje, it says on her Instagram, like she teaches nonverbal communication. So she was going over just like energy, as well as like the energy of the horses being really sensitive beings. So she explained that horses are prey animals, and because of that, their energy fields, like they're very, very sensitive. So she's like an animal that's like a prey. Like they know when things are coming. They can feel it. It might be a year away, but they know when something's coming, and like they can get like energetically prepared for that. So because horses are also these prey animals, they're just like these really, really sensitive beings to like picking up on emotions, and they just like see energy in a way different to humans. And like in the past, we've never, like, I mean, humans are just like come and conquer, and we just like think we're better than everything and everyone else. And it's been like kind of like a harsh road for the horses, because a lot of them, just like a lot of other animals, have been kind of like beaten into submission or like forced to comply. So her thing is like she's really working, she wants to work with them. So she's also asking for permission from the horses to do anything all the time, and it's a collaborative thing. So she has like a subject, a person like on the table, and it is energy healing. I don't know if it's like fully body talk, because I know she teaches body talk, and that's how she started like that's how she met Jackie, right? I don't know if like, I don't know a ton about body talk, although I have been like probed to learn about it a little bit.
I don't think that there's like, Jackie was even telling me that they're moving away from the name body talk, or she's not really calling it that anymore. So I feel like it's, I don't know. I think it's just anything with energy healing, or just moving energy through the body using magic, using things like our intention. And it's not really magic, it's also electromagnetic fields. So just anything like that, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what it was. Like, it's almost like it probably stemmed from her doing body talk, but like Loesje's like so good with it now, and like so in tune about it. It's kind of like her own thing, especially like with the horses. So the horses, like when I was first talking about this, people maybe thought it was a workshop where you like learn how to heal, like do energetic healing on horses. And no, it's not like that. The horses actually do the healing on you, or they collaborate with Loesje to remove, to do the energy healing and to remove anything maybe stuck or stagnant in your body, and to clear. And yeah, it's just like really insane. So she talked about how she doesn't like when people use horses to heal, because I guess that happens too. She says it needs to be a collaborative effort. So like they need to be, she talks to them and they need to be on board and willing, which a lot of them are, because they're so sensitive, and they just like humans, they're born with like a purpose too. Yeah.
Like, so did she talk at all about how others like would use the horses? Maybe just like, I don't know, I guess maybe just missing that like consent part kind of, you mean? I don't know. Did she elaborate on like how others would use horses in a different way?
Not really. She just said she doesn't like when they're used, that it needs to be like a collaborative effort. So
probably, you know what it would probably be like? It would probably, I would guess that like using them would kind of just be like using the fact that they have such a strong electromagnetic field to just like be in their presence and be like, I'm gonna, almost like robbing them of their energy, kind of just to be, because I know it's like horses are obviously, because they're so magnificent, it's a huge spiritual retreat thing. You know, I've heard just some people talk on other podcasts. I don't know, just there's a lot of spiritual retreats that kind of revolve around horses or being close to them or something. So it sounds like she's just doing this a lot more consciously and a lot more intentionally.
Yeah, exactly. I think also with like maybe with some of them, like people like demand the horses do the healing work, or they like train them to do the healing work, but they're not like checking in and communicating with the horses. And like that's what she does. Like she's also always like checking in with them. There was even a moment actually where one of the horses was going through something and needed to release something, and she said, we're not going to move forward until a cache releases this. And then she did like energy work on him too. And then and like, it was very much, it was very connected through everyone that was there. So then even some of the people that were there, cause you can tell some are definitely like regulars and they come and have these sessions done like all the time. So like the one was sitting down and she's like, I feel like, a tightness like around my chest. And then Loesje was like, oh, like you still feel it? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, go in there then. Go in. So she like walked in and like walked up to like a cache, and like, I don't really know exactly what she was doing, but she was just like kind of standing with him. And then I think a cache was like communicating to Loesje, but it was like this moment where, I don't know, like he had maybe jumped over something and he had gotten like caught like in his chest. So he was like being held back. So it was really interesting because this healing came through for everyone in the group that have these feelings of being held back, but it was presented in this way of an actual experience that the horse had of being like held back by something. And it was also like a trauma for him that he like needed to release.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So wait, this was what you're talking about. This was the clearing of his own thing, or this was
was the clearing of his own.
So Loesje stood in front of him. You're saying Loesje stood in front of the horse?
No, another girl who was there to get a session, another lady that was there to get a session that I think is like a regular, and she had mentioned that her chest felt tight, and then Loesje was just like, okay, well, go get in there then. And like just like go walk up to the horse, I guess. And like, because a lot of the time I didn't even know exactly what was happening. Like I'm just kind of like watching. Like it was a lot to take in. But that was after we came back from lunch, and that was so interesting because she was Loesje was talking to a cache, and she's like, okay, well, we're not going to move forward with sessions right now because a cache is going through something, and we need to hold space for him. So that was really cool. And that was the other thing with this. So like she does the body talk or the energy healing in collaboration with the horses. So the whole time she's speaking telepathically with her horses, which like, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Like it was incredible, like out of this world. Like have you ever seen someone just like telepathically speak with an animal like in that way?
No, like definitely not in this way that is so that's so back and forth and that's so active, you know, that's a real conversation.
And she would just be having conversations with them out loud, and it was wild. So wait, so like what were some of the things that she would say to them?
Well,
she would I don't know, like she would just be like, okay, Nova, then go then if that's how you're feeling. And like she would just like be like like back and forth. And she'd be like, okay, noted. And she'd be like, okay, so a cache says that there's something like stuck in your liver, there's something stuck here, that's why he's nudging you. Or like there was one point where she was just like, Nova, we've already talked about this. Like I guess Nova really wants to have a baby, and she's like, we've talked about this, like, but just like it was like she was like, it was like she was talking to a person, like they're just like having an exchange right in front of you.
Wow,
It was really cool. it was
Yeah,
really
so
cool too because
talked about this
it sounds fucking crazy, and it kind of looks crazy, but being there and experiencing it, you're like, you can feel that it's real, and you know it's real. Like, you're watching it happen in real time. Like, I wish I had a better example, but nothing's coming to mind. But just like of the exchange she would have, and like just how it was an exchange, like it was like an actual back and forth. Like, even when she was doing a session on one person, so like part of it too is like she would do a session on somebody, and the sessions were like all different for as far as like what come up. She would kind of
Did the person give any information? So that one person said their chest. Did the people give any other spiel about what part of them they felt like needed to be cleared, or was it like they went in and she located it?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So like some people, because like I said, some people were regulars, so they kind of like knew what to expect. So like some people would come up and she'd be like, okay, what's the agenda? Like, and she'd say like physical, emotional, or mental. And some of them would be like, well, I think it's like emotional, or I think it's this. Sometimes they'd be like, I don't know. And then she would like feel into the agenda herself and be like, okay, we're working on like the physical today. And then she'd very much like, she would just like do a body scan and feel into them. And she'd be like, what happened when you were 12 years old and you hit your head? Yeah.
Whoa.
It was like, what happened this time when you like fell off your horse? What happened? Okay, yep. And then like moving, and then she's like, oh, who put the dagger in your heart? And she'd like grab it. She literally be like, and just like throw it out. Like, it was like, it was wild. And then it was also really interesting because at the same time I was kind of trying to like tune in. Like, I was really I was really soaking up like everything from this experience. I was really captivated and really just like enthralled, which also like lets me know that there's definitely more here for me, because I felt like I could have just like kept doing that forever and ever. And I was just sitting there watching, and I was fucking freezing. Like, I was like just bundled up around the fire. Like, I was like so cold, but I just thought it was so interesting. Just a sec.
So then the horses, I know that, when they explained it to me a week ago or so, I just thought it was so crazy. They're like, and then the horse just comes up and like nuzzles your knee, or like hits you, or hits you on the hip, and she's like, it is cleared. Was it like that? Like, so how did the horse know? Like, I guess that from what I have heard from Jackie and Brandon, like, how did the horse, did I guess just from their communication, like what were some of the things that you saw, like when the horse would go, like how did it get from like her healing to the horse's healing to the body?
Yeah. So like she would talk to
some examples, like
the patient or the person or whatever. But then the horses would telepathically communicate with her, as well as they would come up. And like, that's the other thing too. It's like the horses aren't like tied down. They didn't have halters on or anything. So they were in this big corral, and they chose to be right up there. Like, they could have been anywhere in that corral, like a horse would be. And they chose to be up there and all around this person, which I found interesting. But they would come, they would walk right up to the person, and they would sometimes they would nudge a certain spot to like tell Loesje. So it was like communicating, like, oh, something's in the liver, something's this. And then she would speak it out loud, so we understood what's going on. She'd be like, oh, Akash says something's going on in your liver. You feel something there. But the horses would also actually push her out of the way so that they could get closer to the person and do like their own like energy work or like feeling into it. So they did that with the communication, as well as they were released for the person. So they would start like Nova kept stomping her foot. I know Akash would yawn, or they would just like, the one time Nova walked away, and then they're like doing a release, and Lucia's like, oh, Nova's gonna roll for you now. And then she laid down and she like rolled. So it was just like this like movement of energy. That was one of my questions. I wanted to ask her more, like how the horse kind of like moves it for you. Like how does that work? But it was really interesting. And then the last girl that went, actually, she was on Zoom. So they did a surrogate for her, because you can do that with like body talk or like emotion code. So they had actually someone there that was learning to be a facilitator, and they had her come as a surrogate. And it was really strange because the horses went wild, and that was the first thing that I'd seen all day. Like, they started running around and bucking and kicking, and they were running like crazy. Like, the one time, like, she actually had to ask the person to get up off like the bed and like come out of the corral, so because they needed to just like get out all their energy. But it was really, yeah.
Whoa.
And it was so interesting because the rest of the day they were so calm, and they would just stand around the person that was on the bed, and they would put their face, like they'd put their whole nose like right on top of their face, or on other parts of their body. And like all the horses would be like standing around and just like way calmer of an energy. And then this last person, they just like went nuts. Like there was a couple times like I audibly was like, oh God, because I like thought like the one was gonna like kick the girl in the head. Not that she was trying to, but they were just like, they were just like releasing energy. And so this lady, I think this is fine to talk about because I'm not gonna say her name or anything, but she was Japanese. And so Loesje said it was a lot of like cultural stuff. Like there was something coming up with her dad. And then so like the female horses were like chasing around like a cache is like some type of like, I guess, metaphor. That's not like the right word, but, or like symbolism, like chasing around a cache, the guy, like the male horse being like, okay, like grow up, like you got to get it together. But it was like the female doing it to the male. I don't know. It was really interesting, but because of like, I think culturally a lot of like suppressed emotions, especially as a woman. So there was just like so much to like release, and the horses just started like, just like running around. And like, I don't think that was like very typical, like would happen, but like not like that. Like they were like really going for it. And like, that's what she like said at the beginning too. She's just like, yes, the horses are like intuitive. Yes, they heal, but she's like, they're still a horse. They're still in a horse's body. They're still a horse. So we still have to treat them like horses. So just like, it's, yeah. So like when they started like going crazy and stuff, she like got the one girl out of the corral, and she's like, okay, like we just got to wait until they like get this all out and like do this release. But that was pretty crazy because they were just like running laps and like just like kicking and bucking and.
Whoa. And that was the only person that they were doing it for?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that's crazy that like the horses do all these, that like that it's not just like they do one thing and they tap on this body part and it's like they really do an entirely different thing based on the person.
Yeah. And each session was like that, and like it was different. I don't remember all of them because she did quite a few in the day, but like a couple that stick out to me. Well, I remember, and like it was just interesting too because she like Loesje seems to just be so connected. Oh yeah. And then to go with what like Jackie said with the synchronicities, yeah, like the amount of synchronicities that just like happened that day between like talking to other people about things that were going on in my life, and then like Loesje just like, and I hadn't told her about it, like talking about it like directly, like in front of everyone while doing a healing on somebody else. And there was so many like connections like that. It was even funny because Jackie's the one that kind of brought me to this thing. And then the one girl I was talking to, she name dropped the name Jackie too, because I guess her biological mom's name is Jackie. And at the same time, I have somebody else named Jackie who came into my life. So it was like a lot of Jackies in one day, which I don't think I ever talk about Jackies really ever. So
yeah, just one of those things where like synchronicities are abound. And yes, she really kind of just creates this force field around this experience that's just like, that's what it felt like it would be just from an outsider, just from what I had heard. It just, you're in this whole bubble of like magic that is just happening for the day.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. And she explained that too, as in just like we're creating a field with the horses and with everything going on. Like we're all connected and we're creating this field. So she's like, if you get up and go to the bathroom, like you're affecting that. And like we were told, like, get up and go to the bathroom if you have to go to the bathroom. But it was just an example, like if you move your foot or your like whatever you do, like you're affecting this, right? So that was really, really interesting too. But then, yeah, just like the one session, I think it was a girl who they seemed to be close. Like she worked there, but they pulled names for the sessions and she was like up first and she was just like talking to her. And this was kind of a cool moment for me too, because she was asked her, she's like, what color is the cobra? So I guess she had like a Kundalini cobra, like moving up her body of some sort. And in my head, I went purple. And then the girl goes, well, it was violet, but now I'm seeing gold. And I was just like, wow. Ooh. That was like, yeah, that was kind of cool. And like this girl, she does a lot of like light language, and I guess she's like a dancer, and she sat next to me actually, and the whole time like she just like was moving her hands, which I found like really interesting. So just like something with the energy. And when she did her session, she was like almost like helping Loesje, and like, so I don't know if she's like learning to facilitate also or what, but she just like the whole time was just like moving her hands and stuff. And I know, and Loesje said, like, if you need to speak light language, like you can. She didn't, not in that moment. But then later, this was interesting. So like when everything was done and it was time to like pack up and go, she like that one girl that she said does the light language and was doing all this stuff, like she was like really pent up with energy. That was the other thing there is like, the energy was so strong and potent and pulsing that like all of us being empathic, like it was a lot. Like me sitting there, like I could feel the energy, like I could feel it flowing through my body and pulsing through my body, like through all of the sessions. Like it was just like, it was a lot, like in a good way, but like it was just like a lot to take in. Like I've never really felt something like that. So I just found myself too, like trying to stream the energy through my body and like constantly ground myself because like it was a lot as like somebody who's like highly sensitive. So then at the end, like I think this girl that was sitting beside me, she had like a lot of like pent up energy and like they said she was a dancer, and I think she was just like, I kind of need to dance, or I think Loesje picked up on it and was like, okay, like just let it out, like just get up and dance. And she kind of stood up and she's like, I need more room. And she like moved to the back and she just like started like moving her body, but then she started like just going crazy with the light language. Whoa. And this is one of the most wild things, to be honest, I've ever seen. I don't think I've seen someone in person actually speak light language, although I do know what it is. It's like she was like completely taken over by some type of force, and she just started going like, and she was talking so fast I like literally can't even I can't even like re-say it. But she was just going like moving her hands, and then she started going up to people and doing it. So she walked up to the other girl that I think was kind of working there too, because she kept like, she was like an observer, but her and Loesje talked back and forth a lot. Like you could tell they were connected, and she was also helping like she was like keeping the fire going and like keeping like things kind of in order. And she like went up to this girl and was like and like just like put her hands all over and was like moving up and down her, and her eyes were closed and she was just like dancing and like going crazy. And I was just like, oh my god, wow. And then she moved to the next person, was like, and then she like did it to me. So she like came up like behind me, was like, and like, and I didn't even like, she was behind me, so I didn't really know what to do. I was like, thank you. I thought it was like really cool, but it was kind of like one of those moments like, what do I do with my hands? Like, where do I look? So I just like shut my eyes and like just put my hand on my heart and just kind of like just like took it in and just like let her do it. But then she like went over to like one of the dogs that was there and did it to the dogs, and we're like, and so she didn't do it to everyone, which I thought she was going to, and then she kind of like stopped. So it was like this like surge of energy that she just needed to like get out with this like light language. But it was interesting because when she was kind of like around me, behind me, Loesje like looked at her and was like, what's his name? And then she was like, I don't know. And I was like, that threw me off a bit because I'm like, whose name? I'm like, does that have something to do with me or no?
Interesting.
And then she was like, I got Paulo, and the other girl's like, I got Rodney. So I'm just like, I have no fucking idea.
What is anyone talking about?
It might not have anything to do with me, but it was just like funny because she was like right behind me, and that was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. It sounds about as wild as I envisioned it might be.
Oh, it was wild.
Oh yeah, like I just remembered there was another story that they had told me about a retreat or some kind of course that Loesje did or Jackie did with her, was that she went up to some lady, like asked a question, or I don't know, she went up to some lady and she just like put her hand like right in front of her forehead. And she was like, you need this or something like this. And she just put her hand right in front of her forehead. And the lady just went back onto the floor. Like she was sitting, I think, cross-legged on the floor. And she didn't touch her. She was like, you need something, this. And she just put her hand right to her forehead. And the lady just went back like on the floor. And I think both Jackie and Brandon were there to witness this. And they both described it. It was like something out of a movie. It was like she just force field. Like this lady is pure magic. She's working with magic anyway. So I just wanted to mention that because that was another thing that I heard before I brought you into to this. It was just like crazy stuff.
It is crazy. It was wild. So another session that stuck out to me after you like saying that, this girl because most of them kind of sat in the bed or laid in the bed, and she kind of was like, she was after lunch, and hers was mixed in with like Akash's. So like when Akash started going through all that stuff after lunch where we needed to hold space for him, this was also part of her session, but he needed to move through his stuff first, I guess. So she kind of just like walked in. She's never had a session before, and she was just kind of standing there, and she was like kind of just looking to Loesje like, okay, guide me. And Loesje was like, okay, start feeling all like the nerve endings in your body as like golden fiber light or something, or nerve fibers is like this golden light, something like that. And just feel it brighten and those like golden, and like the girl like looks and she's like, I'm getting really hot. And she's just like this, like she's like, I'm really hot. And then Loesje like looks at one of the girls that's like helps her stand at the front. She just looked at her. She's like, so she like comes in around the corral and she's standing behind the girl because she's like ready to catch her. And then she's like, and then she tells her, she's like, I don't feel so good. She's like, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. She's like, it's okay, just go. Like you have someone to catch you. So she did. She just passed out, and the girl caught her. It was wild.
And this is probably very normal occurrence. I would assume that happens in these things. Like, oh, just go.
I think so.
Yeah.
Loesje said that she knew that day was going to be really powerful, but like I'm sure all of the days she does the sessions are really powerful, but just in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, because the girl had just walked in just standing like normal, and then she's like, just imagine this. So she starts imagining it, and she's like, holy fuck, and like passes out pretty much. And I was just like, whoa. So she just like laid her on the ground, and then Loesje was kind of like explaining what was like going on with her. She was just like, she's like, so her like system has like completely shut down because it needs like a reset, and like something was happening in the Akashic records. So she's like, I'm just gonna leave her there while her body like like her body like processes and stuff like that, and like she'll come back eventually. So Lucia's just like very casually just like hanging out against the corral, just like chatting with us, explaining what's happening, just like telling stories. And then like minutes later goes by, and this girl kind of like wakes up, and she's like it was wild.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's crazy. Did she explain it all, kind of like you were saying that there, if you leave the circle or something to go to the bathroom, the energy changes? I'm just curious the extent of what she explained about that and about the way that she perceives it to work. Did she explain much more about like about the invisible energy, the invisible flow, like everything that was happening that we can't see with the eye? Did she talk about that at all?
Like she didn't specifically get into more what was exactly happening if one of us left, because it wasn't like negative or anything.
Yeah,
It was
just like the balance of the energy and just because like anything more on that, did she say?
Nothing specifically is coming to mind. Like she definitely explained kind of what was happening to each person as she was like going through it and what was coming up, and there were and so she would explain if there was kind of stuck or stagnant energy. I don't know.
Yeah, because the way I see it is, I feel like what's happening is that with the combination of like intention and consent, it creates this, there's this like communication line between Loesje, the horse, and the subject, right? That it's like this quantum information cascade, but it's like I just see all of their electromagnetic fields like connected, and it's this whole kind of crazy exchange of information thing. Pretty cool.
I mean, that is definitely what's happening. So yeah, she did like explain it, I guess, as she went. I mean, I think you explained it well right there, of just like it's all like this electromagnetic frequency that's like connected between like the three of them. Well, I mean, I guess all of us.
And it kind of just goes to show too that it's like, because it's about moving energy, right? So the horse would sometimes do something on behalf of the person because you kind of have this synchronization going on. So the horse can do something to move it that maybe the person can't, or just like assists, and also, I don't know, for some reason also what's coming to me now is also how we can move our energy through Mother Gaia, and how when we do grounding and stuff, how we can use the earth as a means of transferring our energy and transmuting energy. So it's kind of like that. And I mean, I'm sure Gaia was in the equation here too, with
hugely,
with the way that she kind of set up everything, and part of the communication, especially if they're stomping on the floor and you're out in nature in the ground. So it's like this whole thing, you're bringing the energy back down into the dirt. And it's just so cool how it's like, just you can move energy on your own, but it's just that assistance with other beings to kind of outsource that movement. Is like, you don't need to.
I think also just feeling like how tangible the connection is between everything, because it's just like the horses are helping you because they're connected to you, and they can move that energy because they're connected to you, and then they can move it into Mother Gaia because they're connected to Mother Gaia. And just that overall feeling of like connectedness. And it was wild to hear her talk about that too, because she's so connected and in tune that she like talks to everything. So she talks to the land, and she asks for permission before they like build anything or do anything with the land. She was talking about, because everything has an entity.
Yes.
And I think it's easy to forget that. It's like I know that in the back of my head, but I forget it often. And while I was there, it's just like you couldn't not forget it. You couldn't not know it. Like you just felt.
She treats it as like another second nature. Like obviously you talk to this land and make sure that you have permission to be on the land. Like, you're on it. Why would you not ask permission, or why would you not communicate with the land? And it's such an amazing reminder of the whole I am mentality, or just the fact that we are connected to everything. And you can one way to embody this is to really meditate on just the two words, like I am, and just embrace like I am everything. And not just know it, not just say it, but meditate on that and feel into that. And it feels like that's kind of what this got into a bit. It's like we are everything, and that's something that I personally want to do more, to kind of really meditate on that I am presence.
Yeah, me too, for sure. But you could just feel that. And the way she talked about the land and connecting to it too. And she even said like her son would go out and cut down trees for firewood, and he asks the trees which ones want to be firewood, or do you want to be firewood?
Whoa.
And like will like speak to them that way, which is so wild, because I feel like, and that's what she was explaining too, and this is really interesting actually following our Ascension episodes, because she's just like, I'm in New Earth. Like, New Earth is my reality. I'm living in New Earth.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really interesting too, because the way she lives is on that's how I aspire to be, is like that connected to everything. And like literally that, like I've always wanted horses one day too. So like living in the forest in my little cabin with like land and a garden and my animals, like, and being
it's
that
like you
connected.
you see an example of it right near you. So it's like, I just got chills also while you were saying all that.
It's super powerful. I'm really excited for when you come to Canada and then we get to go together.
Yes. Yeah. So like, so what else, or anything else from it that you feel like was really cool, or what do you feel like was a big takeaway from it, or something that you want to embody into your own practice or your own offerings or just your own spirituality?
Oh God, that was a lot of questions.
That was a lot of questions. How did I just become like an interviewer?
Okay, to add another session that stood out to me, nothing huge, but like this one girl, she was like doing stuff on her, and then she just like let out this like scream, and I was just like, oh God, like that was one toward the end too that hadn't happened yet, and she was just like, ah, like for like so long, and I was like, holy shit, like, because like I've never seen any of this stuff really before. Just like see it in person, you're like, this is like. Wild. It's wild. This is like something really weird that someone talks about that you never see in person.
Yes.
But you talk. Yeah, it was wild. As far as embodying in my own practice, I don't know what yet, but the universe has definitely brought Loesje into my path for a reason. I definitely feel some type of connection there. I don't know how that's going to unfold yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. The next thing for me is I'd really like to have my own session.
Yes.
And connect with her a little bit more. And I also see myself doing more of this work. So like the prerequisite to doing body talk is the emotion code. And I've read the emotion code book, and I'm just like, I'm waiting to get the book back because, well, I had it on an audiobook from the library, and I need to update my library card, yada, yada, yada. So I want to like re-get the book so I can, what's the word? Like program. That's not the word I'm looking for, but my, pendulum.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've heard like
kind of is programming it.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard Jackie talk about like, like the muscle testing and like doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like, emotion code is like the first thing. And I would like to use a pendulum because that's kind of what my friend who brought it to me uses. And I just like the idea of that. And I've already bought myself a pendulum that I just need to like actually do the action of. And then I want to start using emotion code on myself. So that's been in my reality since last spring when, my friend Carlin that does like the neuro pathway. I really want to have her on the podcast at some time too. Yeah. She'd be really good. She does all the neuro pathway stuff, and she stayed with us for a while in the spring and like just helped me with a lot of things, and like doing like a cold dip, like in the lakes every day. We're doing the cold plunge, and she's just like a really cool, awesome person, but she did the emotion code. So that's where I got into that. And then when I was learning more about the emotion code, I learned that body talk kind of comes after that, and it's more like in the body. So I feel called to learning more about body talk, or more about like energy healing on the body. And I've always felt really called to doing that work, but I think it's been kind of finding how to get into it and my own way to get into it.
Right.
Because I've always known that I'm supposed to do something more with the body and like energy healing of the body, especially with like my background in respiratory therapy. Like, that knowledge isn't supposed to go unused. Like there's definitely something for me to do with the body. So I don't know how that's going to look yet. I guess we'll see how it unfolds. I can keep us updated. But yeah, another thing too with Loesje, she's just like, Well, there was this other thing she was explaining about energy, and I don't remember it all exactly, but she said that with like animals, or I guess anything, because everything's an entity, and energy, she said the last barrier is actually physical. But usually that's what we go to first because we don't understand anything else. So for example, if you have a dog, you're going to physically try to make them sit or do something. But she's like, she explained like like there's 4 different things. I think maybe the first one started with like energetics or like telepathic. And then the last one ends with physical. So she's like, no one realizes that you can use all of these other ones first. And then the last these are the means of communication. And then the last means of communication is physical.
Yeah. Right.
So that
and
was
of
really,
course we all invert it and we think the physical is the only thing that matters.
and I'd love to learn more about that too. And I also feel like there's going to be something coming in for some learning for Osa and I through this work.
Totally. And yeah, maybe there's something more too with you and animal communication, or just kind of tapping into that. I could totally see you expanding your business to things that have to do with animals, or you never know, things will progress as they need to, but it's not that much of it's not that much of an extension from reading humans. Like, you could probably already easily read animals right now if you wanted to.
Well, and like this is maybe a reminder that I need to put it into practice, because I've been meaning to do energy healing and Reiki sessions on Osa, and I just haven't actually done it. So I don't know what my resistance is to that, but I've been wanting to do that with her too. But also, so Loesje actually, where did Jackie meet her? In New York City? And you said that
I think in New York City for the first time. Yeah.
Because she does workshops or sessions or like these retreats like around the world.
Right.
So
she does travel a lot.
She travels a lot, which is also literally what I aspire to do and be. But also she's connecting like she has her horses on her ranch, but they're not her only means to do this. Like, she's going soon, I think, or in the next maybe a few months, to Egypt and doing this with the dolphins.
Whoa. Now that I want to witness.
Yeah.
Dolphins are so magical.
I love dolphins. Like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Dolphin healing. Now that is cool.
Like, that immediately just gave me like a ping in my heart. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, just like, oh. Like,
wow. Okay. That's really cool.
And she's going somewhere else. I don't know where, somewhere in Asia, I assume, and like does it with elephants.
Yeah. Right. She's just tapped in. That's
very
awesome.
Tapped in. And that's what she kind of said. Yeah. She's like, yeah, with someone with my caliber of like energy, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like,
yeah. She just lives, she's completely right that she says, I'm in New Earth. She's 100% in New Earth, and she brings around a force field with her. It's really cool. And I think it just, honestly, all it takes is, I was going to say, it's when you assume that that's your normal life, then it is. It's just beliefs creating your reality. And it just, I think, maybe Jackie had said this to me at some point about her. It's like we perceive it as like, oh wow, like, oh, with all these synchronicities or whatever, this is just her life. Her life is a series of magical, crazy things happening, and it's just really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that sounds really awesome. I'm really glad that you went.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, and even just like, it's so interesting because while I was there, like, people are talking to me. They're like, oh, like, how did you hear about Loesje? How'd you get here? I'm like, well, my friends in Florida, who I, by the way, never met, told me that I need to meet her. And if I found out she lives like very close to me, because even if I'd been living in Alberta before, she wouldn't have been close to me.
Right. So that was also part of the whole crazy synchronicity. Yeah, it is kind of, you're definitely really close to her, considering you could have been anywhere else in Canada.
And when I did start chatting with her too, I'm just like, oh yeah, like Jackie and Brandon, and then like I'm really good friends with her like younger sister. She's like, oh, like Alyssa, like you guys do the podcast together. And I was like, oh wow.
Oh, they talked. Oh, I guess they must have told, or Jackie must have told her about it.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm also kind of interested. I'm like, what did Jackie say to her about me?
Yeah, I know at least that she wrote down your name or something.
Well, yeah, she obviously mentioned something to her because that's what she said. She wrote down my name. So I'm like,
yeah, and she told her that you live near there, and she wanted to get you over there. But I didn't know that she had told her about the podcast and about me. But that's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. So excited to see how all of that unfolds. I'm
excited to see how the connection continues and how you continue like having her or having this in your life. I feel like too there's more. Well, obviously this is just less than a week ago. There's obviously a lot more for you to unpack, but I feel like you're gonna uncover a lot more from this through your own meditation and through your just processing it, whatever you learned, or
Well, and my own session, like I don't know when that's going to be or what that's going to look like, but that will be a story for the pod possibly too. I mean, I hope so. I guess it depends what's uncovered.
Yeah.
Because she's really like also in these sessions, like your biggest, darkest, she's like, oh, who did this to you at 15? She's like, and you're just
everything.
And like everyone's there to like witness.
Yeah. So you have to just be okay with that. But yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else we want to add to this episode before we wrap up?
Yep. I think everybody out there is so random and dumb. But if you don't have a meditation practice, please start meditating. That is so random.
This is your message? This is I didn't expect you to give this message to everyone.
No, I didn't. No, it's just a random channel that's been coming through because as we're anchoring in the new like earth frequency and going through this ascension, like a lot of us are feeling like overwhelmed and frustrated. And I'm like, every single client I'm seeing, it's like, do you meditate? Do you meditate? Do you meditate? If you want to start like working with your intuition, it's like, just start doing it. It doesn't have to look perfect. I don't know where this came from, so I'm sorry. This is like a weird sidebar, but
no, it sounds important.
Somebody listening needed this reminder. So yeah.
I agree. And it's such an important part of it too, because it's like when you meditate, that's your time to just remember that you're a soul and a body, you can get too carried away as much as and as much as you feel connected. Truly, if you're not having some sort of meditation practice, then you're not remembering that this is like just a game. You have to give yourself a break and let yourself tap out of this reality for a bit. And I'll just say, I would just want to say, if anyone is having a really hard time starting to meditate, like it was really hard for me at first. I had this really weird thing with like feeling like I couldn't close my eyes for a long period of time, or feeling like weird about closing my eyes. I was like, where do I look? It's uncomfortable for me to close my eyes. And I started doing like an open eye meditation, or I started for like 1 to 2 minutes. So I just wanted to say that, I don't know, in case anyone feels like they're having a hard time or don't know where to start. I started extremely slow with like 1 minute, 2 minute, and I had a weird thing with closing my eyes. So if anyone else has that, seen.
There's no right or wrong way to do it. So even with the closing eye thing, if you struggle with that, a really good thing to do is light a candle and look at the flame.
Yes, flame meditations are really, really powerful. But yeah, start somewhere. I only started meditating a few years ago, and it was really hard for me at first, and I started extremely slow, and then I built up. So don't be discouraged. But yeah, clearly that was an important message. So
yeah, I don't know.
I say power to it. I think it needed to be said.
Yeah, you were just like anything else in it, and I was like, meditate. It just like came like through. So
yeah,
I speak.
That's what we're here for. We're the channels.
Yeah, exactly. So that's good. But besides that, I feel complete.
Good. Thank you for sharing your experience at the horse farm.
Thank you for listening.
Of course. I hope people found it interesting. I definitely did. And we'll hear more about it.
The horse farm.
Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Interdimensional Astrophysics. Mikayla's at Mariposa Moonchild. Follow the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please give it 5 stars. Give us a review.
Yeah.
Tell the
world. It really helps us out.
Cool
We're just we're just small little babies.
We're just starting out here, you know, tell a friend.
And honestly, even if you don't like it, just 5 stars. I'm kidding. But if you didn't like it, I hope that you wouldn't make it this far in the episode, because that's just, honestly, that's something for you to just figure out.
That feels like a you problem.
Yeah, that feels like a you problem. That feels like you might need to take a look at yourself.
Take a look at yourself. All right. On that note, go book one of Mikayla's offerings, get a session, get some healing done. Let's heal the world, you know?
Yeah, it's a ripple effect, baby.
It is. All right. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.